Hi, I'm Takoa Da Silva, and today we're going to be sitting down speaking with Ian Foreman, President and CEO of Yale Resources. Ian, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, well, Ian, thanks for sitting down with me here. I got a lot of questions I want to ask you. Ian, your team at Yale Resources runs a project generator business model. And looking at your deals, you seem to have tweaked that model a little bit, and I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that.
Well, it's a very good question. I think one of the key aspects that investors and potential investors in Yale Resources need to truly understand is that as the project generator business model has historically been one of the more successful business models in our industry, what Yale is doing is we have modified that in main part by the types of optionees that we are looking for. A lot of project generators look for the techs and the mid-tier producers and the larger companies as partners, whereas we kind of eschew that and we're looking for the littler companies, either a CPC that's looking for a qualifying transaction, maybe a company that is in the process of reorganizing their business plan, maybe a company that has projects in northern latitudes that's looking for a winter project. And we have shown a really good track record in putting our projects into smaller companies. One of the aspects of that is that there's a higher risk-reward ratio on top of the high risk-reward in our industry that we're in. So it's kind of almost doubling that in a sense. So we've got to have more patience. We've got to have more patience with both the projects and our partners. And I'll give you an example of how this business model, or our tweaking of the project generator business model, has really benefited Yale and Yale shareholders. A great example is last year we did a deal on our Los Amoles project. The Los Amoles project is an early stage project. We had no idea with regards to what expenditures had been on the project, but we knew that it had good geology, good postal code, and it was prospective. A company came to us that had the business rights for doing water in Russia or something to that effect. I still find that a bit confusing. But they wanted to get into the natural resource sector. And we were able to utilize the Los Amoles project as their first project in the sector. They have since renamed themselves. They're now called Sonora Resources. They trade on the OTC. They're trading at about 50 cents. They now have deals with Grupo Mexico and another deal with First Majestic, companies that are much larger than Yale Resources, but probably wouldn't have dealt with a company trying to get into the resource sector. So we now have had $120,000 spent on our project. We have 400,000 shares in them. They're trading at 50 cents. That has been a huge realization of an asset of, to be honest, questionable value. I mean, it was an early stage project and we don't really know what's in the ground. These guys took the shot with us. Now, moving forwards, if they drill the project, fantastic. Our shareholders are getting the benefit of even more money spent on our project. If they don't, if for some reason they now say, not a priority, but we are going to spend money on our other projects, well, great. We now have a project that has $100,000 spent on it in the last 3 years. This now can be repackaged and we can find another partner for this project. So we are able to advance our projects through the process that a lot of companies typically do, but by utilizing partners to do so.
Another thing I'd like you to comment on here is the concept of giving away 100% of a project. Where is the logic in that? I'm wondering if you can explain that for people.
Well, the reality is there's no set formula that we use. If it makes sense to option out 100% interest in the property, we also have to think if it makes sense for our partner or the optionee, why wouldn't it make sense to us? The reality is if we're able to put a project of ours into a new co, and that company uses our project as their go-to flagship project, why shouldn't we be giving them the rights to 100% if they then can utilize that extra 20, 30, 40% from what normally they might get as a 60% to increase value in the project on their side? That then translates to potentially a much greater market cap from them, and that higher market cap naturally is an increase in share price. So we, as shareholders in that new company, are leveraging our optionees' shares into Yale Resources. We know, and it's no secret, that this is a very high-risk industry. A lot of people throw out different statistics on the odds of something becoming a mine. What are the odds of a group fulfilling 7 years of work commitment on one of our projects? I'd like to think it's higher than most. But if it is, and there is a mine on one of our projects, we benefit by becoming significant shareholders in that company. And that is dollars into Yale Resources. So if a company finds a mine, we end up with 1, 2, or 3 million shares in a company. What is the value of those shares? It's going to be north of $1. So any share issuance we bring into the company, we can view essentially as cash. Any cash we bring into the company reduces the requirement for us to do a financing. Any financing we do dilutes the company. So therefore, I just look at it as a linear progression. The more projects we have optioned out, the more likelihood we have of success. The more deals we have ongoing, the more money that's spent on our property. The more money gets spent on our property is more money we're not spending on our property. We then are also having the costs of our operations in Mexico covered in a greater percent by our partners. Therefore, our burn rate is less. If our burn rate is less, our requirements for cash is less. And so we are setting up everything such that we ultimately will not have any direct costs in Mexico. All of those costs will be covered by our partners. We will grow organically, and we grow as is needed and required by our partners. And our partners, as they grow and as they have more confidence in the project, and as the deal we strike with them requires an additional X hundreds of thousands of dollars from one year to the next, we will in accordance grow. I will find more geologists, more logistics, more draftspeople, whatever we need. We will grow